All right, welcome to the channel, Dr. Emin Gün Sirer. Thank you so much for coming on, and it's a pleasure to meet you.
Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
So obviously, you're a pretty prolific founder here in crypto land. You've created one of the biggest blockchains in the entire space. For those who might not know your journey, just quickly, how did you get to this point of, essentially building a project, which we'll talk about here, which in 1 year probably had some of the biggest growth that we've seen, maybe of any tech project, of any company, network, however you want to describe it, you've ever seen. What came before that, so people can understand how you got to this place?
Sure. I was a professor of computer science at Cornell University for 19 years. I was always interested in very large systems. I was always interested in systems that sort of took care of themselves, that worked without somebody in charge of them. I worked on peer-to-peer systems for a very long time, and then later came up with the idea behind Avalanche. I actually worked on Bitcoin, found one of the biggest known flaws in Bitcoin, worked on Ethereum, worked on a bunch of other systems, and ultimately developed the system called Avalanche that is the latest, greatest, and probably the highest tech in blockchains today.
So I guess let's just talk about 2021, because that was when we saw some real magic, not just in Avalanche, obviously in the whole industry, but it kind of came out of nowhere. We saw AVAX or Avalanche launch in late 2020, sort of Q3, I believe. And then by 2021, it was that and Solana were dominating, and Luna, there was like that trifecta, and you guys were just dominating the whole industry. What was it like, I guess, as a founder to kind of start something, and then within a year, it's trading at over $100 billion? Like, what is that like as the creator?
$100 million. Yeah, it was it was much more than that. And it
$100 billion.
$100 million. Total market cap was in the billions, right?
No, 100 billion.
Oh, 100 billion. Yes. Absolutely. B with a billion with a B. Yes, it was. The numbers were really, really large. It was an insane time. And now that I think about it, it's even more insane than it seems, because back then it was, as you said, Solana Vox, right? Solana, Luna, and AVAX. And Solana had the FTX scam behind it. That was Sam's coin. It was one of Sam's big fraud things. Like, he would pump up a coin and then use his holdings in that coin to borrow against. So he was doing something funny with Solana at the time. So that we now know from court proceedings. It's a point of fact. I'm not a founder saying this anymore. It's just well known, well understood. Luna was doing its own unsustainable thing, and we held in there, doing nothing but organic growth and bringing tech into the space. So looking back, it's just like, what the hell did we accomplish? And where would we have been without those other people doing the hokey stuff that they were doing at the time? Those are really open questions that boggle my mind even today. But it was really, really emotional at the time, really, really stressful, of course, because you worry about the new system you've built. There's a lot of new tech in it that's not been time tested. It's not like we're taking something that existed and repurposing it or putting a new veneer on it. There's a lot of brand new technological improvements, and many of them were untested at the time. So it was a lot of holding our breath and hoping for the best, and working furiously behind the scenes to make sure that we understood what was happening and we could make it better. Even as the whole plane was in flight, we were making changes to it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously on a smaller level, I've experienced it. We launched a project in 2021 that traded within a month at a $5 billion FDV. And a lot of people were congratulating me, but I was so paralyzed with stress, I couldn't even explain it. It was objectively one of the worst periods of my life. So what was it like for you? I mean, that was, you were 20, 30, 40 times bigger than that. How does that feel? Obviously, you must be able to compartmentalize, but how did you experience that 2021 era where all of a sudden things are just exploding?
So personally, it was, frankly, I didn't even have time to comprehend what was going on. I'm very good at compartmentalizing, very good at drawing boundaries and saying, okay, these things are the things I'll worry about. These are things that are beyond me. But even with that, there was too much going on at the time. I was really concerned about what else was going on outside of me. So the things I couldn't control are the things that gave me the nightmares, right? So people are saying all kinds of things in the bull market. Most of them are false. I was preoccupied with, how do I get my message out in a sea of noise? That was really, really very hard at the time. I wasn't so worried about, the tech was untested, as I said, but we were working furiously behind the scenes and it was contained. Like that's a tech risk is something I understand. Market risk, where the market goes, what narratives it believes, and what kinds of falsehoods it can be misled by, those are things I can't control. And those were the ones that gave me a lot of nightmares. And personally, at the time, I was dealing with family members that actually needed care as well. So add on top of this, a crap ton of travel to take care of 2 people in my family who needed care at the time. So I would travel. It was the pandemic days. I'd go to a crappy Airbnb for 5 days, 7 days for the to make sure I wasn't carrying COVID. And then I'd hang out with them or aid them in the hospital, stay at the hospital bed, etc. Then come back out and trade places. It was just it was a tough time. Looking back, I don't know where the energy came from, and I don't know how I survived through all of this. But it was really fun and really stressful. And it's one of those things that afterwards you're like, oh, I can't believe I did that. But anyway, so that's what happened then.
I believe it's raw adrenaline, sir. That's where it comes from, is at that point. Yeah. But
it's just pure, yeah, exactly. It's just the adrenaline glands just secreting just pure adrenaline. It was insane.
So now that the haze of the bull market has worn off significantly, what do you think has changed since 2021 for crypto as a whole? What do you think? Obviously, 2021 was a period of sort of wild excess. There was a lot of belief and optimism in the space. And yet, a lot of things have changed, many of which I think are significantly better than they were. But the emotion in the community is obviously significantly worse. How do you view crypto right now?
So I'm super bullish as always. So it's very clear to me that, in 5 to 10 years, every financial rail will be built on a blockchain. That much is crystal clear. These blockchains are so much better technologically that there is no escape from them, and no amount of regulatory noise or regulatory obstacles can really get in the way. Not that there are any to come anymore. Those days are behind us. But we did live through a step back, especially after the FTX collapse, especially after the Biden administration decided to crank down on crypto. We went through some rough times. But the future, is very, very clear to me that is going to be based on blockchains. Now, let's see. Well, what was the overall overarching question? Like that, where are we going with this? Or
yeah, like what is your assessment of the industry? Because I've seen a lot of people kind of, especially in the background, there's a lot of quiet quitting throughout this cycle because you've seen sort of Bitcoin get validated, but that obviously the vast majority of smaller participants are not buying Bitcoin. They're looking to buy the next thing. And I think, I have a theory that once Bitcoin hit, really 10K, a lot of people found it too expensive. And since then, it's been more of an institutional game. Things only really started moving when Michael Saylor started buying Bitcoin. And then you have the ETF flows. Very obviously, if you look on chain, this is not retail buying Bitcoin. There are retail buying Bitcoin, but it's not driving the Bitcoin market. And that's why there's been a decoupling. Whereas most people, your sort of crypto community at large are looking at the altcoin space, and a lot of people are looking around, and I've heard a lot of people sort of saying, I don't know if this is what I thought it would be. What do you think is the reason for that, and what keeps you so excited about these next few years?
Great question. So here's what kind of happened, at least in my view. So if I take a step back, what really did happen is after the FTX collapse, with the regulatory concerns, and afterwards with Trump administration, we ended up taking a step back initially and then fast forwarding through the regular boomer adoption process. What's the boomer adoption process? Here's how it really, really happens. These old folks, which control an inordinate amount of the resources of the world, they are now beginning to meet Bitcoin. They now understand the advantages of Bitcoin, and they're now slowly absorbing the goodness that is crypto. And that is why you see the preeminence of Bitcoin today. So that's one of the things we're living through. We've seen this over and over and over again. I've seen it maybe 5-6 times before with various different cycles. New people coming into crypto always start with Bitcoin because the value proposition is so clear, so crisp, and you don't have to be a techie. It's very easy to understand, and they start there. That money never stays there, and that value never stays there because hodling Bitcoin is only, it's only going to get you so far. So what usually happens is that money rotates into every other coin, and people realize, hey, there's so much more here. And the tech savvy ones, they already know. They already know where the mileposts are. They already know the functional chains, the chains that actually work, that actually have some technology behind them. So that rotation is going to happen. We're at the cusp of it. But at the moment, what I'm seeing is that boomer adoption of Bitcoin is what's happening. And what I'm also seeing is a lot of validation. So in the last cycle, we kept telling the world, look, you guys all think that, Ethereum is the highest tech, and you guys all seem to be taken in by like technical mumbo jumbo. It's just, you're getting served gobbledygook. Most of it has no meaning to a real distributed systems researcher. These are not the terms real people use, real people who understand research use. These are not the issues that they're concerned about, or the frameworks are wrong, and therefore these people are constantly going into rat holes from which they cannot emerge. They lack the tooling required to build the next set of rails. And so we kept saying this. And the market at the time did not want to listen. Markets, when people don't know tech, what do they go by? They go by social proof. So 3 years ago, 4 years ago, you could start an L2, you take some selfies with Vitalik, and that's all you needed. And there's no amount of shouting from the sidelines is going to fix that process. It's like, yeah, look, guys, like these people are just a scam. They're just running something on a centralized little thing on a bunch of laptops that they have, et cetera, et cetera. You can't really correct the market that way. But we knew, and we told the world, that Ethereum can't get to the vision that is promising. We told the world, look, the days of Vitalik selfies are going to be gone, and the days of gobbledygook, technical gobbledygook, and constant stuff being held in front of you, like these technical cryptographic phrases that were constantly promised to us as the savior of Ethereum scaling. Those things will never pan out. None of them have what it takes to really get to the destination. That people would see this is what we kept saying. And finally, people are beginning to understand, hey, yeah, that's really a big community, and it's kind of meandering, it's circling the drain, unable to get out of the little tub that it's in, and there's a bigger game to be played. And we have steadfastly played that bigger game. Now, what's that bigger game? That bigger game does not rest on Vitalik selfies. Vitalik selfies today hold much less power. I don't think you could launch an L2 today and get a selfie with Vitalik and expect to have a multi-billion-dollar valuation anymore. Those days are gone. I am sad to see that they were replaced for a while with Trump selfies. There was the Trump proximity game that got played last November. So you take a picture with the president or his entourage, and that kind of gave you some tailwinds. But those days are also coming to an end. It's very soon going to be a game of show me what you've built. Show me what people have built on you. Show me what your chain is capable of. And that's what I'm really excited about. That's why I get up every morning. And, among all of this noise, among all this craziness, am I sad that the market is so slow to understand things? Yeah, of course. But the market deep down does understand things. And if you deliver the right things that allow you to have product market fit, that allow people to have PMF on top of you to deliver tokens and assets that the market needs, then you get places. So that knowing that if you do the right things, you get rewarded is what gets me out of bed. And that's why we're working so hard to make all of the necessary changes to Avalanche to meet all of the demands of these new areas that are coming to blockchains.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think what you're describing in a lot of ways is the transition to a light market or a white market from a gray market. And I think that the boomerification of crypto is an interesting phenomenon, because what you're actually seeing is how the machine truly adopts new things. And first, they're starting with Bitcoin because it's been de-risked, right? Mm-hmm. Larry Fink's behind it. There's no risk anymore. We now know the narrative, the use case is clear. And then you're going to start to see it come through the industry. And I think that's the part that people are struggling with, is that the legacy system moves really slow. It doesn't move in 3-month increments or 2-week increments. It moves in multi-year, multi-decade increments. And that's why this Bitcoin sort of growth and dominance explosion has been stronger, longer, and slower than before. And I am personally of the opinion that the next phase of the industry will also be longer, stronger, and take a much longer amount of time than it has before. Like instead of a 3-month alt season, we'll probably see a 3-year growth, but only, like you said, for the things that are showing that they actually serve this purpose, that have met that hurdle, right? Of this isn't just an idea, this isn't just a concept, but this is something that is out there and it's working. And the only, I guess, like spicy opinion I have, which wouldn't have been considered spicy until this year, is I think ETH does need to go up a lot, because I think that there's something that happens with investor confidence if they see the biggest altcoin not perform. I think it calls into question the sort of whole everything under it, even if there's better tech, like you're saying, and we all know that there is. But I just think that psychologically, Wall Street, if they see ETH go up, they go, okay, everything has staying power. Whereas if ETH somehow sinks as a ship, I think it calls into question everything, and people go, well, we'll just sit on the sidelines here because we don't know. But speaking of better tech, I did want to get into AVAX specific tech and talk about the problems that you guys are solving, because this is the stuff that is not being accurately valued by the market today that I think is the really important information. Let's talk a little bit about the design of AVAX. For those who don't know, AVAX has one of the coolest designs. It's actually been years ahead in its design, starting from 2021. But you guys just did this 9,000 upgrade. Like most protocols go 1, 2, 3. You guys went 9,000. I appreciate that. Can you tell us what that means, and like what's the sort of punchline on why this is such a big deal?
Sure. So Avalanche is fairly unique in its design, and in particular, it's not a single chain. So people are used to Bitcoin, which is a single asset on a single chain. They're used to Ethereum, and they might be used to Solana. So those are multiple assets on a single chain. But in all of these systems, all of the users are on one chain. Avalanche is unique in that it supports multiple chains. Think of it as a network of networks, kind of like the internet, whereas other people are trying to build a single rail, a single local area network, so to speak, for the entire globe, and finding that to be very challenging because all of the use cases have to be accommodated by the same platform. That's really hard to do. Avalanche forgoes all of this and says, look, there'll be multiple chains, and they will work in unison. They will work as an ensemble. It's going to feel like it's a single chain, but really it's multiple chains for multiple use cases. So you might have a gaming chain for a particular game. You might have a US chain for compliant use cases, financial use cases in the US. You might have a European chain. You might have a China chain, etc. You might have IoT chains. You might have all kinds of other chains dedicated to other purposes and use cases. So that's one of the things that makes Avalanche fairly unique. I say fairly unique because there are only two other systems like us. So there's Polkadot and Cosmos. And so the three of us are the next generation, sort of the latest generation of blockchains out there. And I'm really, really glad that the bear market gave us time to show the world that this approach is a huge win compared to the single chain approach. In the bear market, multiple systems launched their own chains on Avalanche. There have been some really demanding games. There have been some really demanding use cases launched as L1s, layer ones underneath Avalanche. And they all have their own chain according to their own rules, and they have their own users and their own economics. And all of that works as a coherent ensemble. And that's one of the main things, critical things that sets Avalanche apart.
So I think this is getting to the really interesting stuff, which is which of these use cases, and by the way, I wanted to ask one question before that actually. As you create more chains, and this is one of the reasons why we decided to build DEX infrastructure. At one point, we actually built our own L2, and then we had this sort of realization that this wasn't really advancing things, that actually that it was creating more fragmentation, and that we already had enough fragmentation. Mm-hmm. And so we built a whole chain and then decided that actually we're going to put that on the side for now and focus on unifying liquidity and unifying projects together. So in an ecosystem with, say, infinite chains, how do you focus on liquidity issues, which inevitably will become a challenge? How does that work with Avalanche?
So in a sort of a traditional L2 model where you have one chain for settlement and a lot of disparate L2s that don't communicate with each other, that don't have any common rails for communication, for asset transfers and so on, you have liquidity partitioning. So every L2 divides into your liquidity. Every L2 divides into your user base. In short, every L2 cannibalizes the underlying system. This is what's happening with Ethereum, and that's why you're seeing the stagnation that we're seeing in Ethereum. In Avalanche, this is not the case. Because we started from day one to build a multi-chain system, we built into it all of the mechanisms required to easily shift funds from any one of those networks, from any one of those chains into any other one, and to transfer assets from wherever they are to wherever they need to be. So to that end, we have these things called the Avalanche ICTT, the token transfer protocol, the ICMP, the message passing protocol. Those allow us to invoke smart contracts on other chains, as well as transfer assets from one chain to another, as long as the two chains are mutually agreeable for those kinds of transfers. So what does that mean? That really means that when I create my own chain on Avalanche, I don't really care about where liquidity is. It can easily flow into me. In fact, it turns out that if you use the core wallet, it's transparent. I can just say, go do this operation on Dexalot, and it just happens on Dexalot without me even noticing that behind the scenes, my assets actually moved from one chain to another. I sent gas to that chain. I carried out an operation there and then moved things back. People don't even notice these things because it's all hidden behind these layers that make it entirely transparent to the user. The end result is it's much faster, much better, and it has infinite capacity.
So there's a world in which a player on Godzilla, its chain, could potentially make a DEX transaction on Blackhole on the C chain without even knowing it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I can't wait to see the days when we're going to see the Godzilla assets on being traded on chain as well. They're being traded, I believe, on the Godzilla chain right now, but very, very soon they're going to open it up for others.
Yeah, I think it's just early stages. I was talking to Vlad recently, and it seems like they're really ramping up the transition to their on-chain. As an investor, full disclosure, I'm extremely, extremely excited. So I can't wait to see that.
As a player, I'm excited. You know, I play that game. I get my butt handed to me in that game. I don't know who these people are that are killing me. And after you get killed, they do this dance to pick up your loot, right? To pick up your arms and legs and guns. So I feel like I'm getting teabagged after I get killed. So it's like kind of humiliating for a second. But it's such a playable game. It's such an awesome game.
No, the game's insane. The game's insane. It is sweaty. Like there's a lot of really good players to the point where it is hard to sometimes get into a rhythm. But the game mechanics are best in some of the most fun I've ever had playing a shooter.
Cool.
So.
They just recently rolled out a feature. I don't know if you noticed, a couple of months ago, they put in a new feature where you are paired or you're grouped with people of your own level. So you're less likely to be on the playing field with a bunch of these what they call monsters, who come in and they got all the cool arms, cool legs, cool guns, and they kill you without blinking an eye. So it's gotten better for me, and but still I struggle in that game. I've watched my young family members kick ass though. It's really a fun game.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the crowning jewel of the crypto gaming movement. So we're obviously massive supporters.
Can I say a few words about that? So let's talk about that. I want to open that up because it deserves some discussion, and I think we all deserve some kudos for making this happen. When we started talking to Vlad and the team at Godzilla about building a blockchain-based game, everybody told us that blockchain gaming already had some dominant players. Okay, so why are you doing this? Can't you see that Axie Infinity is it? And what is Axie? I never really figured out what Axie Infinity was, but it was mostly some kind of a Ponzitronic thing. And everybody was buying some coin to buy another coin and staking that coin to get another. And it's just like, that's not a game. What you're doing is you're doing some stupid financial transactions. You have to be on chain every day to click a button. There's no intelligent thing going on here. There's definitely no value creation. This cannot be sustainable, and it cannot be the basis of anything called gaming. This is not gaming at all. So we took a counter stance to everybody in the industry. And we are also investors in Godzilla, and it was with an eye towards we're going to show the world how it's done. It's not done this way. You leave these people alone; they go get the best VCs, the best well-known names behind them, and yet they're unable to deliver the most minimal thing that I would call a usable game. So it was kind of infuriating at the time. And our response to it was not to be infuriated or anything, just to say, look, let's just show the world how it's done. And Godzilla came in, and you wouldn't even know that you're playing, that there's a blockchain behind it. You're just killing people. You're taking up their arms. Every single arm, every single leg, every single piece of armor, piece of gun, or whatever it is, ammo, it's all NFTs in the game. And every time you pick them up, there's an NFT transaction on an Avalanche L1 someplace. So I'm really, really, really happy about what got built. And I'm super happy to be able to be here and say, I told you so. The whole world, every single person in the crypto space who did not believe at the time that there could be something better than Axie Infinity, that there could be something better than Ponzi's, that indeed real games would come and there would be real value gained from putting a real game on the blockchain.
No, and I want to salute you guys for taking that bet. I think what a lot of people don't realize is the way foundations sort of operate in this industry is mostly virtue signaling, mostly hand wavy, and mostly fairly extractive in my estimation, in that almost every foundation in the space is really just trying to kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge builders to come over and then kind of do nothing, right? Whereas the reputation of Avalanche is that you take super high quality calculated bets, but you actually care about the builders on your platform. And that's 100% the reason that attracted Black Hole, and the reason why we were so excited to work with Avalanche is that this is where high quality bets are made. This is where real builders should know that they're not just getting some kind of hand wavy bullshit, for lack of a better term. Godzilla is a great example.
Yeah, we take great pride in that, in taking people to completion. Look, we're a platform provider. We are here to make other people's dreams come true. We're here to accommodate other people, let them do whatever they want to do best. And we love taking, especially energetic groups, young energetic founders, to completion. And we want to see them deploy their own systems, their own chains if necessary, their assets if that's what they want to do, and succeed with them. And we do everything we can to make sure that that happens.
So one of the things I think people don't quite know is that Avalanche has a significant bench of institutional backers. What are the pros and cons of having an ecosystem that has a ton of institutional interest? What are the advantages that gives, and what are the things that you kind of would like to see connect even better with that setup?
So let's see. There's a lot to be had from having. Look, I'm in New York City, right? I didn't need to be in New York City. And in fact, you can tell a lot about the project just based on where the founder is. And there are really like three different kinds of projects. There's the one kind that sees the blockchain space as a tech play. And in these cases, the founder has like one cool techie idea, and he or she moves to San Francisco and they build a tech platform, and they're like, okay, go tech, go. And they're not going to succeed. It's just send it to zero. I can immediately tell you that if you're based in SF, it's going to be a tech play that ends up doing a nosedive. The second kind is the kind where the founder is in Dubai or some other tax haven, maybe in the US, and they're just going to be selling coins and sitting back. They're just there to create the asset and make some noise. They don't have staying power. And then the third kind is where the founder is in with the asset issuers, with the people who have value. So that's why I'm in New York. This is the most scrutinized piece of real estate on earth, right? So imagine the amount of regulatory scrutiny that we faced compared to anybody else. So it's wonderful to be talking to these institutional partners. It's fantastic to hear firsthand from them what their difficulties are with the traditional finance system. So we know firsthand exactly where the bottlenecks are, and we know firsthand exactly where the bottlenecks are not. So that's allowed us to build these various different systems on top of Avalanche that facilitates groups of people, groups of big players from Wall Street, to build walled gardens where they carry out tasks of their choosing, of whatever it is that they wanted to do. Some of these have been made public. I think there are press releases about various efforts that we spearheaded. So that's been wonderful. The downside, of course, is these folks are very, very slow moving. So they take a lot of time to sort of go from A to B, and they have to be reassured constantly that going to B is not going to cause harm of any kind. And That takes a lot of effort. Reputational harm also. So that takes a lot of effort. And the other one, of course, is you're under scrutiny a lot. So they need you to be doing everything by the book, et cetera, et cetera. So of course we do everything by the book, but getting the required certifications, et cetera, for large institutions to really consider partnering with you, it slowed us down in our early days. When we were 30 people and we had to get various ISO ratings, SOC1, SOC2 ratings, etc. That all took effort and set us back a little bit. But I wouldn't do it any other way. We are here to stay. We're not going to be, whatever it is. We're not playing this game for tomorrow's games. We're here to be here for another few decades to come. And to do that, we have to do everything right, and we have to convince everybody around us that we're doing everything right.
So I think on that point, I see the backdrop as, crypto is becoming an institutional asset class. And there's going to be a hurdle now for projects that become institutional grade effectively. And that's what the market is asking right now, which is which of these assets is institutional grade and which ones will make it to that equities like growth curve where you have not days and weeks of up, but decades of up. And and I think that's the question that's being posed to the industry as a whole right now. What do you think if Avalanche does just one thing right, and can nail one particular vertical? What do you think that would be to really cement its place in the future?
If I had to pick only one thing, that's kind of like a Sophie's choice, right? Your son or your daughter.
But it's fun.
Which one? So it would have to be institutionals. That's where we are strongest at. That's where we have done the most amount of thinking and the most number of partnerships compared to anybody else. We're 10 or 100 times ahead of all of our competitors in the blockchain space. And in fact, where the space is going in a year or so, it really won't matter who you took a selfie with, even Trump family, etc. It's going to be a non-issue. It's going to be a game of what have you built on top, and to get there, you need these institutional connections. And so that's where we put a lot of our mind share, a lot of our effort, and that's where I think we're going to see the most amount of growth in the year and next couple of years to come.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that's 100% where everyone should be focusing, because the flows from institutions are essentially limitless.
They're huge. They're huge compared to everything else. The retail game is okay. The shitcoin casino, so to speak, it's okay. You could people play that game. It was a zero-sum game. Like, you're not going to win too big by winning that retail game. And at some point, you're actually hurting the industry by promulgating that sort of zero-sum thing. There's some amount of money, it shifts hands every day. People bet on meme coins, most go down, almost all of them go down, some of them go up because they're manipulated somehow. That's an okay game, but it's not a game that's here to stay. And the longer it stays here, the longer it bleeds people away from the crypto space. So we're here to build things of lasting value. We're here to build new rails that are the enabling platforms for the next generation of systems to come.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I've been pretty vocal against the trenches, if you will. I just don't think that it's a game that will ever attract or retain new users, which is, of course, the key metric, right? We need new people to come, and then we need new people to stay. That's and right. I don't understand how a game where you lose 999 times out of 1,000 is a good game. Exactly. But I couldn't agree more. Do you think? I think an interesting question is, over the last few months, we started to see, for the first time, I think, the application layer really thriving. And we've seen this, obviously, most notably with things like Pump Fund and Moonshot, which are proxies to the casino. But nonetheless, there is a clear shift of value to the application layer. Now people anticipating the Pump Fund token and all the things involved with that. Do you think L1s continue to be the most important value accrual layer, or do you think that there is an application layer that develops over time?
So that remains to be seen. I don't have a very firm opinion, but I've been in this space for a very long time. I was in it in 2002, way before Bitcoin existed. So I have some observations. So here are some facts, right? So in the internet space, the initial money flowed to telecoms and infrastructure providers, but people quickly realized that that's not where the value really lay. and then value started shifting up, percolating towards the app level. And so I've been thinking about this issue with respect to blockchains for quite a long time. Why don't we see a similar percolation of value towards the applications in the blockchain space? And I think there's a good technical reason for it. And that reason is simple. When you build a blockchain, when you're an app on a blockchain, all of the information that you retain is also visible to the layer below. And in fact, the layer below has more information about what's going on in this space and with the users than the apps themselves. The apps, because they don't capture any private information, because everything they do is happening on-chain in public, end up not being able to capture that value. Pump.fun is, it's actually a centralized website with a blockchain backend. So it's found some success. It's found product market fit for sure. But it's the exception rather than the rule. Often, I think in this space, the apps don't have any private mechanism by which they can capture something that the rest of the system does not know. So as long as that stays the case, then the L1 will always have more opportunities to collect more information compared to the things built on top of it. And that's why we've seen this L1 premium over and over and over again. I expected it to disappear at some point. I was like, well, we should see the same thing we saw on the internet. And when we didn't for so many years, and when the L1 premium persisted for so long, I had to then think hard about why it is that the market just loves the L1s so much. And I think the reason is this, that L1s have access to more info compared to apps, and apps lack the ability to capture private information.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I want to go into some rapid fire questions, but the last one I want to ask on Avalanche is, what is one misconception that you would clear up? And I think you alluded to this earlier where you're like, hey, I wish I could just get my message out. You said that in 2021, you wish you could just get your message out. Well, here we are. You have the platform. I think we're going to get a lot of viewers on this one. What would you explain? What would you say is one big misconception you wish people would properly understand about Avalanche?
Avalanche is not at all comparable to Solana, Ethereum, and not Bitcoin. So it's a different kind of system. It's a network of networks, and as such, it's got to be viewed differently. We fought a lot of battles just with statistics. People would measure the number of users on our C chain and not on the ensemble of chains. So Godzilla, for example, brought 15 million users. And none of it was being counted towards Avalanche users, whereas they should be. And so that's one of the misconceptions I would try to fix up. That is to say, Avalanche technologically is in a different class by virtue of its architecture. It's in a different technological class by virtue of its consensus protocol, which we didn't talk about, but it's entirely different. There's a reason why it's faster than everyone else's, because it doesn't do all-to-all communication. It does far less communication to achieve the same effect of achieving consensus. And then the third one is, it's ethos-wise, it's different from everybody else. We're not here to facilitate, unregulated activities. We're not here to help people navigate the gray areas of the law. We're here to allow people to build compliant applications using a blockchain as its foundation. And blockchains have inherent benefits, even when you're building these applications that are all too obvious to see when you look at a case like Godzilla, when you look at some of the consortia we built with Wall Street firms and others. And we plan to show one by one, case by case in each area, exemplar applications to the world on how things ought to be done in the blockchain space, how much better things would be if they were ported over to blockchain rails. Yeah,
I love that. I definitely resonate with your comments about the network of networks. And it really makes me, obviously, as we're about to deploy a liquidity engine on the C chain, it makes me excited about what's possible, being what I'd imagine as a really core primitive of this network of networks to have essentially deep liquidity accessible on all these chains. It seems like that's a necessary but not sufficient condition for expansion of the network. And I'm really excited to see where this goes. What do you think crypto as a whole, not financial advice, no shill zone, what do you think about these Bitcoin treasury companies and where it takes Bitcoin over the next few months and years?
Well, they tapped into a market that people underestimated the size of. So it's a lot easier to buy Bitcoin through those treasury companies than it is with, by creating an account at Coinbase. By the time you create an account on Coinbase, you put discretionary money into it, etc. That's one path into crypto. But if you could just go in with your 401k and invest in a treasury company, and your employer matches your contributions, etc., there's more flows to be had there. So that's what they explored. Kudos to Michael Saylor for discovering this bit of financial engineering, and so they are the play. You will see everybody and their brother come out of the woodwork to do treasury plays, and they provide a method by which people who would otherwise find it hard to get into crypto So I like them. There's no harm done. I think this is fantastic for people it serves. We will see over time that these treasury plays will go down. The premia they offer will go down, and we're seeing that happen already. And we'll see what happens. I'm a builder's builder, right? I like people who actually build things that work, that provide new functionality. So these financial plays, they're okay. There are treasury plays on Avalanche that people are building as well that I heard quite a bit about. And I need to keep my mouth shut about. So I like them. Kudos to them. But when I go to sleep at night, I really think about those young people I meet at Codebase, our big event, our hackathons, and so on. The ones that are building new applications. Those are the things that excite me. What will happen to these treasury companies? They'll persist as long as there's a financial engineering play to be had, and at some point the premium will go down. People will have. They will be using Avalanche for so many things that they won't need to go through these contorted mechanisms to purchase into AVAX.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we all agree it's an interesting way to onboard money, but you start to wonder what happens as everybody runs the same play, and where's the novelty, and then the net asset, the NAV premiums, how do those sustain? So I agree with you. I think it's going to be a nice Ponzi on the way up, but it's probably going to be a trail of tears on the way down. So
well, it doesn't have, yeah, that's true, but it doesn't have that terrible unwind that Ponzi's typically have.
Well, so, MicroStrategy doesn't.
Right, MicroStrategy doesn't. Right.
But these other ones are actually, when you dig under the hood, they're not engineered the same way. MicroStrategy, you can never call back the debt. Whereas, for example, and don't kill me, audience, if I get this wrong, but as I understand, Metaplanet has a different debt structure where at any point investors can call back the debt. So there's a world in which they don't have the cash on hand, need to sell Bitcoin, right? So there's certain mechanisms. Not all of these are created equal, essentially. Right. But yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that it's certainly very cute, at the very least, what Michael Saylor did, and you got to tip your hat to him. What do you think are, well, first, what's one shameless shill to enter the shill zone that you would make? You don't have to make it, besides Avalanche, that you really want to point your sort of spotlight at and say, hey, pay attention to this. I think it's cool.
So if I had to pick one thing, can I pick more than? No, I'll pick just one thing.
You can pick multiple. I
can pick multiple. Then there's so many.
This isn't a law here. I'm just making this shit up.
Well, look, all right. Well, so if I pick like third-party stuff, then everyone gets in my DMs and they're like, "Why didn't you pick me?" Blah blah blah, and I get a lot of upset friends. Look, if you want to take a look at a proper exchange you can trust, check out Enclave.markets. That's a new exchange built from the ground up. Designed initially by me and my team, and then it was spun out of Ava Labs. Now it's its own thing. It has its own CEO. I'm no longer connected to it, other than being the person who initially conceived the idea and having built the idea. But it's a different kind of a market that is built on trusted execution technologies, which means that even the market operators cannot do three things. They can't front run you. They cannot peek at your private information. They don't even know what positions you have. They can't liquidate you. And they do not have custodial control over your assets. So if you don't purchase something, they can't take your asset and use it for something else. So what does that mean? That means that you can sleep well at night knowing that the people who operate the show cannot steal your money. They can't divulge your position. And they can't front run you, they can't extract value from you, they can't MEV you. So that's the kind of platform that all exchanges should be built on. It is much better than everything I have to my left over here. Wall Street's this way. So everything on Wall Street is based on trust and then after the fact and very sad enforcement. All these auditors come in, they pour through all these all this paperwork, all this whatever it is. It's so hard to find financial fraud, and there's a crap ton of it on Wall Street. And there's a lot of mismanagement of funds and mismanagement of assets, as we know from cases like the Dole companies. The fact that they couldn't even keep tabs on how many shares that Dole had outstanding speaks volumes for how good the system is down here. So Enclave, much better technological platform, trustworthy exchange, with a great execution at the moment. And so check it out. Every single marketplace ought to be built on that particular financial rail.
I think that's awesome. Yeah, certainly privacy and encryption is going to be the next layer for crypto. I'm really bullish on privacy stuff now that we have friendly regulations. Yeah. What would you say are just your final words for folks out there, retail audience folks who have been sticking it out in crypto now and really excited for the next expansion, but maybe they're a little tired, maybe they're a little bit, maybe they've been a little bit haggard by the journey. What would you tell them?
I hear you is my number, and I'm with you. So is how I would start. I know that people are tired. I think we all got excited when there was a change in administration. We were all frustrated with the last administration because they came after crypto. That was so short-sighted, and it meant the end of the road for them. It was a huge misstep, and I think no politician will ever make that mistake again. We were very bullish on Trump, but he has various different ideas on the macro side. And those macro ideas like the tariffs and so forth are keeping us back. So we are where we are. I know that you are tired. I know that I'm tired at times. I feel tired at times, like we all do. It's okay. These sideways markets are when we bleed people from the space. This is when the weak hands fold. And they're like, oh, I'm not getting 30% overnight like I did in the bull market. Those were aberrations, okay? It's not normal for people to make 30% overnight. That's not going to happen that many times in your lifetime. Try not to put all your hopes on days like that. Try to put your hopes and plans around those things that have lasting value, those teams that bring lasting value, those teams that bring those communities that bring lasting innovation to whatever they do. So do this generally, I would say. That's my one bit of advice. I was in the advice giving business for 19 years as a professor. So my big advice would be try to locate teams that bring new technology, try to think longer term, but rest assured that absolutely the rails of tomorrow are going to be built on blockchains. This revolution cannot be stopped. They tried so hard with all the power of the U.S. administration, of the U.S. government, and it couldn't be stopped. So it just can't be stopped. Everybody else who tried to also put roadblocks in place also had them explode in their faces, including in China, in Russia, in India, etc. It's just not possible to stop this revolution. And if you think about, if there was a magic wand you could wave over the population, you could make crypto go away. Well, as soon as this crop of politicians is washed out of the system, the young people who have seen this stuff work would bring it back in an instant. For them, it's natural to send an asset to the other side of the world, to sell things to somebody they haven't seen ever, except had interactions on the internet and mediated by a trustworthy marketplace that's a smart contract. So that's normal to us. And that future is coming no matter what. So rest assured that that's coming. And don't bank on 30% up days. We will have some, undoubtedly, because markets do tend to correct themselves in big motions. But you can't count on it. And if you put all your hopes and dreams there, you'll be frustrated. You just have to be like, hey, I know where I'm going. The world's going to get there. You just have to be chill and calm about this. And the world does go to where you think it will go to if you reason from the ground up, from first principles, from technological principles.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We preach a lot on this channel that the short term is unclear, but the midterm and long term is blatantly obvious. And so if you just flight to quality, stuff that makes sense, projects that have been around that are clearly getting the green light. You have the president is launching meme coins, Congress is passing crypto-friendly legislation, the tax code is being updated. It's a funny time for people to say it's over. It's a really funny time.
No, this is the night before the big party. So I don't know when the big party is going to be, but this is when you get a good position. You get your supplies ready for the big event to come, and then you chill and sit back and enjoy the show.
Yeah, well, if it's the night before the big party, that means it's tomorrow. You heard it here, tomorrow. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Dr. Emin Gün Sirer. I really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, and we couldn't be more excited to be launching something on AVAX.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for building on this.